Okay, so I'm here merely as an interviewer. Today, we're going to be talking with Mindaugas a little bit about design careers and design leadership. But first, maybe it would be great if you could present yourself and let everyone know why you're qualified to talk about this.
I'm not. I'm not a designer. I'm not a design leader, but I have spent about 8-9 years at this point talking to thousands of designers and building communities for designers. So I've morphed into a designer, although I've never been one. But most of my life I've just been connecting people. How I'm highly introverted, and if we talk afterwards, you'll see more groups of more than 4 people. I struggle with. But so how I build relationships is by connecting people and hearing somebody have a problem, saying I know somebody, and making the introduction. And that I've been doing for most of my life, and it has progressed to now building communities and now running a company called Coho, where we build. It's essentially a leadership development platform. So that's who I am.
Okay, cool. And do you want to talk to us a little bit about what Coho is and
Sure.
what you guys do there?
So it actually, and I guess what makes me somewhat qualified to talk about careers and design careers, how Coho came about. And it's funny to say this, being at a Friends of Figma conference. I used to work for Envision a few years back when Figma, before Figma became what it is today. And there I had access to designers of all levels from any company you can name off around the world. The way my brain works is I hear through thousands of conversations, I pick up on patterns. And what I started hearing was that, entering the industry is not easy, but there are a lot of resources, right? There's courses, there's books, you if you're lucky to go to a design school, there's a million things. And then the role itself, from junior designer to say early senior, is pretty linear in the fact that you're focused on your craft. What I found very interesting when I talked to folks who were senior and above, so senior to director, head of design level, I found that the career paths become a lot more ambiguous, and the resources just start drying up. I couldn't tell you how many times I heard from people who were like, I finished my day on Friday as a senior or lead designer, and on Monday I was told that my boss quit and I'm now the manager. And that's the extent of the support that I get, right? So people that are thrown into these situations. So the more I heard about that, the more I kind of started getting this idea that, hey, I want to do something about that. And so from that, I joined a company called On Deck a couple of years ago. They were building communities for founders, but wanted to build something focused. So I built a design community or design program. And then last summer, we spun out, separated from On Deck, and became our separate company. I became unexpectedly the CEO, and then the rest is history.
And there you are. You're here today, and you have Coho running hot. And okay, guys, just before we keep going, this is an open Q&A. If you have any questions about design careers or positions or stuff that happened in the past that you would like some feedback based on Mindaugas' experience, we're open to it. Guys in Lisbon, if you ever find a break between what we're talking and you want to share one of those questions, be my guest. But before that, and now that introductions are done, I'm going to start with a big question, which is, what is the number one struggle that you see when it comes to design careers overall today? Do you have an idea for that?
Yeah, I think so. I talked to, the way Coho works is it's essentially a private network or private leadership development platform. So in order to join, people have to apply, and then they do an interview with either somebody on the team. And I still do a lot of those interviews. So, and I talk to people in the community all the time as well. So I can pick up on patterns and trends on kind of how that's evolving. And right now, I would say over the last few months, especially for people who have gotten to maybe like director, manager, head of design level, I see a lot of confusion around whether to continue on that path. And I think there's a few different contributing factors that are happening there in the year that it is 2023, right? You have layoffs, you have AI, like all of those things are making people question the future, but also reevaluate their relationship with work. So I see a lot more people, for example, saying, should I go back to IC? But then the challenge becomes, if you've been a head of design, you probably haven't been designing for a while. And then it becomes like, well, how do I even go back? But then if you go back to IC, the career paths are not as straightforward as like, if you climb from senior, lead, manager, director, VP, whatever, that's pretty straightforward. And that means each promotion gets you more money, right? Yeah. We're all working for money. That's not pretend otherwise. But for IC, the growth can stop. In most companies, the paths just aren't there. Yeah. So that has become a big question. And I think as much as AI is a buzzword, it is genuinely affecting how people think about the future of their careers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. And by the way, does anyone here does not know what IC means? Individual contributor. Okay. So if you look at career paths, especially in tech companies, it's more common, but in other areas, we don't really look at it in this way. You have individual contributor versus managerial roles. And usually that would be the struggle you see. If you're freelance creatives, a whole other scope. But when you think about regular career ladders, this is what we'll be talking about.
I think for freelance, actually, it's a great time to be freelance right now.
Yeah. And do you want to expand on that?
I just see a lot more. Well, I mean, like anything, right? When companies are having layoffs, that doesn't mean that the work stops. So there's a lot more opportunity, for bringing in studios, freelancers, and I see a lot more of that happening. There's a lot more early stage companies that are born in these kind of weird times. And again, they won't have the budgets to hire, amazing designers in-house or teams. So they're going to likely partner with freelancers or smaller studios. So I definitely see a lot of that happening right now.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Any questions in the room, by the way? If you don't have them, we can find them. Okay. So you focus a lot on design leadership specifically.
Yeah.
And you already talked a little bit about why you found that on Coho. Like, what's so different on that specific subset of design career? What's so different about design leadership?
I just found that there was a lot more, how do I put it? A lot more confusion, and that brought the opportunity to do that. So when I talk to people more senior, the natural, when you hear a specific problem being mentioned over and over again, my natural conclusion was, well, there must be a solution, right? And when I talk to people, nothing really stuck out as the go-to, right? If I'm a manager, if I just became a new manager and I don't know what to do, that there wasn't really the one place. I think there's still, a lot of need and good resources and something to be built for more junior folks. But the challenge with that is I approach it from senior people have more money. So if I can build something and build a company around that and then have enough resources to redistribute back to the more junior side of the careers, then it's more sustainable.
Yeah.
So anyone I've met who's tried to build something from the start, like for the more junior side, always struggle because you got to eat, right? So it becomes a problem. So I want to do it the other way. Build something that becomes big, has enough resources to then maybe do that is a little bit more nonprofit for the junior side.
Okay. And I'm gonna keep looking at the room. If you guys have any questions, go ahead.
How do you start big? Like when you start building it?
So for the
from the senior, from the seniors.
Like
How maybe company can be effective for seniors and how to start?
So yeah, the way we do it is like one, you have to apply. It's highly curated, so you have to apply, you have to interview, you have to fit a specific criteria in order to join what we do. And what that allows us to do is pinpoint specific challenges that these people may have, and then build for that. That means you get value on your return on your investment. That's how we do it.
Any other questions? Following up this? No? Okay, then I'm gonna go and ask you about the entirely other ends of the spectrum in terms of careers. You've been doing this for a while. You've been in companies like Envision. You work in on like yeah, sorry. I keep saying the name wrong, so I just want to make sure that it's
all good.
What are some of those like early career struggles that you think people deal with? Like what you've seen or
right now?
Yeah,
I hear it more from managers and leaders, which is, and again, it just goes back to AI. There's just like there's nothing else I can say. At layoffs too, right? So we have like a double whammy of a shitty year, let's just say, especially for folks in early careers. There's a ton of confusion, and I hear it from managers where they themselves are, worried about what to do next, but also their teams are having those questions, right? If like a junior designer, but it's across developers too, and everybody else, where they're like, how do I even think about continuing to do what I'm doing when all I see is like, you have the AI guys on Twitter where they're like, designers no longer exist because this fucking tool just appeared, whatever. So normally, as a earlier career person, you're gonna have less confidence in thinking ahead or making the right decisions. So I see a lot of that and hearing from, especially from managers and leaders, where they, inside our community are asking questions like, hey, how are you having these conversations with the team? Because I don't know what to tell them, because I don't know what's going to happen next.
Okay. And do you feel like on a personal level, do you understand or do you have an expectation on how these things would evolve?
Yeah, I can somewhat. I think it's pretty clear, at least to me, and I'm happy to debate this, but a lot of the menial tasks will be removed. It's as simple as that. It's just going to happen, right? I'll give you a specific example. One of our members did a talk for our community last week. He worked on Siri at Apple before it was acquired by Apple. So he worked on Siri from like day one. Yeah. He's now building a AI design coach product. And what he showed was pretty insane, which was if you're creating designs, a lot of the actual tasks, like the system can just predict what tasks need to be done, send it to the right people, involve the right people. It's mind blowing. What it comes down to, and what's been pretty clear to me the last few months, that the most critical skills that everybody needs to adopt and learn is decision making.
So moving away from menial tasks and focusing on strategic decision making.
Yeah.
Like that. Which it feels like it's been a trend not just for design at the end of it, right?
Yeah, no, it's not just for design, it's for everybody. Good communication. I think decision making. I think also how you articulate your decisions. You'll see, like for example, my partner is just finishing her last year in interior design, and I can totally see like there's tools right now where it enables anybody to create their own interior design. Does it mean it's good? No. But for her, it's going to be a lot more people coming to you with the design saying like, this is it. Her job is not going to be about the actual physical design of it or using the tools, but actually convincing the clients why it's not, or helping them improve. So it's going to be a lot more about arguing with them, right? And being able to do it in a clear, concise way. And I think those are going to be the most critical skills.
Okay. Do you think there's space for craft in that?
There always will be, I think, but it's going to be more high valued. You will be able to charge a premium for that.
Okay. So actually putting worth in the word itself, like
I think
the
so.
detailed word
Yeah.
and stuff. Many times nowadays, even as a standard, because like there was an AI tools, but at the same time, people didn't really know the value of design.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Oh. Any questions open in the room? Things that you guys think? No. Lisbon, do you have any questions?
Let me just check the audience. So far, so good? Okay, so far, so good.
Okay, so far so good. Great. Okay, I'm gonna drop a question that might be hard based on what you're doing, but do you believe that we have good enough design leaders in the industry right now?
It's a tough one. I think it's a mix, and I'll tell you why. From what I've seen, there's not enough, and it's one of the reasons. Okay, put it another way. I often tell people I wish what I do, Coho, didn't exist. What I mean by that, I wish people didn't have the challenges that they do, that they need to go somewhere to solve them. Yeah, I wish those challenges didn't exist. What that translates to is a lot of unprepared, stressed managers and leaders, and not everybody should be, but a lot of people get pushed into those roles. I know people who should have never been a manager, never wanted to, but they saw that as the only way to continue progressing. Yeah. Got into it, hated it, burnt out, quit the industry altogether. And so you're losing potentially amazing designers, individual contributors, because they got pushed into something that they shouldn't have been doing in the first place. What that does is those that continue, that stress, that way of doing something you're not passionate about translates back to the team. And I do a lot of research around the impact of having bad leadership and bad management. And I saw a study a few weeks ago that 44% of people attribute their daily anxieties to their manager. That's pretty fucked up. Sorry for swearing. I don't know if it's fucked up.
I don't think YouTube is gonna take this out. I hope not, at least. But yeah, like I can see that. Even in personal experience, like we had a rough patch in my team because of structures and leadership and everything. And that usually feels like that might be a thing when people are thrown into the role. I know I was. Fortunately enough, I kind of like it, but in any case, it's not like for everyone. But I was clearly thrown into the role of leadership, and I get what you're saying, and I also hear similar things from people in my network, in my industry. So yeah, it's
a problem.
It is a problem. Okay, and what would be, in your opinion, then, for example, some core benefits of better design leadership for the industry?
I think it's remove design. Just better leadership, I mean, translates to healthier teams. It's as simple as that, which then translates, if you go back to business value, translates to better business outcomes. Like the math is very simple, I think, on that. But yeah, to me, that's pretty simple.
Okay. So we're about 20 minutes in. I would love to get more questions from the audience, but people are shy. Okay, Seth, go ahead.
This is a tricky one, but so a few years ago, I started asking managers as well, and it was kind of my own decision. But how do you actually find out if that's the path So there's no easy way to go about it, right? So
Yeah.
you get into a position, maybe you find out this is not for me, or this is great for me. I love teaching and running a team. How do you actually previous to getting that subscription?
Let me just tell the people what you said. So I don't think they hear you from the stream. So I'm just going to say, so we're talking about a person that 2 years ago started as a leader, and he's asking more or less, how does one know that that's actually the path that we want to go?
Yeah. So there is no, I think, simple formula. Again, I'm not plugging what we do, but that's one of the reasons we exist, allowing people to explore those career paths in a safe environment before having to take that leap, but going super, super deep. But I think beyond that is access to the right peers, to be able to ask those questions and get those insights. I can actually share an article that David Huang, who's the head of design at Replit, wrote for us a while ago, and it's really in depth. And I don't know if we can find a way to share with everybody, but if anyone is thinking that, he wrote it is like a framework to kind of really look at which path. There's some exercises within it to really ask those questions. But I think for me, having access to a group of peers who are maybe in a similar position and exploring similar things, and get that nuance from what they're doing, how they're thinking about it, or finding maybe folks who are in that role already, and being able to ask those questions, which is not always easy.
I would say even that not only it's not always easy, but also that sometimes people don't even know what questions to ask, right?
Also that.
And I know that everyone's experience is different, but I know that I wasn't ready, and I know that some of the people that I talked about, even at my company, every now and then, are like, "Well, we do it. That's it." Like, you figure out what it means, but yeah, I get it. Any other questions in the room? Lisbon. Okay, we have one in the room.
Would you say AI could lead to a place where we have more designers, but their overall skill level will be lower and their understanding of design will be lower, which means if they become leaders in the future, it would be more difficult for them to teach younger people design because they will be too reliant on AI.
It's a great question. You know what? It's really hard to predict, but I think it will. I mean, it's going to enable anybody to be able to be a designer, right? I've never studied engineering. I've never read anything to do with software development, not even a blog post. Yet I now, it's 2023, I already, a few months, have a Replit account, I have a Porcel account, and I write code with ChatGPT and I test my own ideas. That's crazy. So it enables me to do those kind of things that I would have never even had any interest in. Same goes for design. I don't know what that means in terms of like having more designers, but I think you will have those who are really good at being able to then take the crap that I've made to take it further. Not with, they'll obviously need a level of craft, but I'll probably be looking more for advice and guidance and direction. And because I won't know. I think in the short term, we will be flooded with a lot of terrible looking products who are all look the same because somebody now knows how to click a few buttons and write a prompt. And I have a product, right? So there'll be like this transition period. What comes after that, I don't know, because it's really hard to predict what gets built at the rate that everything is being happening. I just this morning, before this, I was scrolling Twitter, I saw Anthropic, which is the OpenAI competitor, announced they're getting a $4 billion investment from Amazon. What? So who knows?
Yeah, I usually talk about this as the commoditization of design and other services, right? Like,
yeah,
stuff that in the past we were used to be very specialized and now they are a commodity. Anyone can use them. Doesn't mean that everyone is a professional, but that does mean that the professionals are put in the spotlight as almost the gatekeepers of good practices and things that actually should be good, helping others get there. I work in an industry that is doing that for code, which is low code and no code. And it's the same thing. At the end of the day, what you're doing is embedding good practices and good ways of working. So I would say, like, thinking about it as like design was inaccessible. Now it is. It's a commodity for everyone. We are the people who need to make it good for everyone. Or at least that's my opinion.
I agree.
Any other question? Again, Lisbon. Feels like
Double
I'm
check. Just one moment. Does anyone has a question? No. So far, so good.
okay.
A lot. Say, would it lead to lower salaries for designers in general?
And if you guys haven't heard, the question was, would it lead to lower salaries for designers in general?
I don't know. Is the honest answer. I feel like everything is going to be reshaped. Companies, the structures of companies, roles. Yeah, I couldn't even. I haven't even gone that far in my thinking, to be honest. But I just know that everything is going to get reshaped in the next few years.
It makes the market different. Okay. We were a little bit late. I have like one last question,
Sure.
and then maybe we can move on with the show to the next stop, which is going to be in Lisbon. Unless anyone else has a question. No? Okay, there's a question there.
It's more for the junior side, because from my side, I'm changing careers, I'm a developer right now. Not. And my question is like, how are we supposed to start with all the opportunities we see ask for like 3 years of experience?
Yeah.
How?
So someone changing career from developer to designer and asking for how to start, and because opportunities ask for 3 years of experience.
Yeah.
If I can say something, apply to jobs like an average middleman, which is like you apply for everything because you just kind of trust yourself. Like middle-aged white man goes everywhere and thinks he owns the place. That's how I say it. I found some of the best designers in my team from people like I have a person that I literally picked out of college, gave her an internship, and she's still with me 5 years ago. And that doesn't mean like we saw talent in the table. We weren't looking for someone that junior, but when we looked at everyone that was a candidate, we actually found a way to bring that person in and mentor them. And actually today, I think she's an amazing professional.
Yeah. I think applying, maybe I don't know if this is going to contradict what you said, but applying directly, especially in this market, is insane. Find ways how to like skip the line to get in front of the hiring manager. What I mean by that is those people can understand nuance and read between the lines, right? So they're looking at you as a person. Often, I mean, I used to be a recruiter a few years ago. That game is that system is just messed up in many different ways. And there are lots of different examples, but reaching out to people directly, not necessarily as telling them I'm looking for a job, but finding like another hook or a way to start a conversation.
Yeah.
Is the way to do it. And often the roles you see, I can tell you because I used to work on this a few years ago, the hiring managers don't even know what they're hiring for. What they'll often do is they'll open up a blank Google Doc and sit there for a couple of hours and then realize, you know what, I'll just go and Google a bunch of job descriptions, take, paragraphs from this one, stitch this Frankenstein together. When you talk to them, they'll start saying like, you challenge them, there's actually no, we don't need these skills and all of that. And so getting in front of them, they'll be able to look at you and the skills that you have today and say, you know what, actually, we had this on the job description, but we can teach you that. But you have these 4 things that we actually need, and we can tell you can do it. And this goes for juniors and more senior people. Years ago, I worked with a guy as a recruiter who worked in a small brand studio for about 15 years. His role started changing, and he started doing, as they got bigger clients, he actually started doing UX work. So it wasn't brand, but it was nowhere on his CV. His title had nothing to do with UX. When he wanted to leave and start applying for UX roles, he was being rejected. Actually, he was one of the most requested UX speakers in Dublin at the time. He used to do talks, he used to write amazing blogs, rejected all the time. So I introduced him directly to the founder of one of the best UX studios in Dublin, and he got hired. And I actually think he's still there, 7 years or 8 years later. But he got hired because that manager or the founder could see the nuance and read between the lines, where the machines that he was applying for, they can't.
And I think that's a great story. And maybe we can end with it.
Sure.
Thanks everyone for the question.